Yo, what's going on, guys? CultofMush back at it with another video, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at an $800 full setup gaming PC. So I did one of these a few weeks ago. You guys seem to really enjoy that. A lot of you guys asked me to do more of these, so here is an $800 one. This build is going to be great if you're looking to do 1080p gaming. It can handle some 1440p stuff, but ideally at 1440p, this build is going to perform really well, given you're not spending too much money on it. So with that being said, let's get right into this with the CPU. For the CPU of the build, I went with the Intel Core i5-6500 3.2 GHz quad-core processor. This is going for around $185 to $190. On sale, I have seen it as low as like $175. So if you can find a deal on it, I would definitely snatch it up. And you really can't go anything lower than an i5-6500 in a build like this. I kind of wish that there was an option right now that acted as a median between the i5 and the i3 if a CPU was like 150. That'd be really nice, but unfortunately, unless you look at used CPUs, that really doesn't exist. Maybe AMD can fill that void, who knows. However, the i5-6500 for $185 still is an awesome value CPU. If paired with a good video card, which there is one in this build, it's gonna perform really well on all games. Even higher end games like The Witcher 3, Battlefield 1, which the latter I don't even consider that high end anymore. But yeah, with a good graphics card, the i5-6500 is gonna perform really well, and with the CPU, you're just gonna use the stock cooler to save some money. And yeah, for $185, it's a solid pickup. For the motherboard, I went with the Gigabyte GA-B150-DS3H Micro ATX LJ1151 motherboard. For the motherboard in this build, you just want to get something very cheap but suitable. This one's got 4 RAM slots, DDR4 2133 up to 64 gigabytes of max memory supported. No crossfire support, no SLI support, but if you're the kind of guy where you are on a tight budget and you're looking to get everything for $800, you're probably not going for a dual GPU solution anyway. You've got 6 SATA 6 gigabit per second ports, and overall a very nice motherboard for just $70. On Newegg right now, they actually do have a sale on this motherboard for the next 6 days. It's down to $60, and there's a $10 mail-in rebate, so you'll be getting it for only $50, and that is a damn good deal. That's available for 6 more days, so I would recommend to get that ASAP if you're interested. Moving on to memory, I went with Kingston HyperX Fury Black 8GB, 2 4GB sticks running at DDR4 2133 memory. You can pick this up for around $55, kind of expensive for 8GB of RAM. During the holiday season, you could pick up a kit of this RAM for like $42. Unfortunately, now with the holidays over and we're settling back in, to the regular swing of things, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more, but 8GB of RAM for $55 is still a solid pickup, and you don't need to go with 16GB of RAM. That option will be available to you in the future, but currently, 8GB of RAM is still a decent amount to have. I still have 8GB in my build, and I can run the majority of games just fine. Just keep in mind for the future, within the next year to 16 months, you probably will want to make the jump to 16GB of RAM, and considering how cheap it is a very good option. Moving on to storage, couldn't go with an SSD in this build, just went with a mechanical drive, and that's obviously the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB. That's available for $50. Obviously, there's a couple different options as far as mechanical drives go. If you want to spend a little bit more money and you want more than a terabyte, you can pick up a Seagate 2 or 3 terabyte drive for around $80 to $100, depending on how much storage you want. Or alternatively, if you want to forego the mechanical drive altogether, you can pick up like a 240 gigabyte SSD for this kind of price, which some people will opt to go with. I just think if you're building a gaming PC, you're probably going to want to download a lot of games, and getting 240 gigabytes only is going to be very limiting. Trust me, I have a 240 gigabyte SSD, and personally, I would never use that as a standalone drive, but you may think differently, so I'll leave that option up to you guys. Personally, I think the best option is to go with a Caviar Blue 1TB, $50. It's a lot of storage, and these drives are fairly reliable as well. Moving on to the video card, had to go with the XFX Radeon RX 484 gigabyte model. These GPUs, easily you can find them for $200, and then after the mail-in rebate, you can usually get them for like $180. That is a killer deal for the RX 480 because it is an exceptional 1080p gaming card. I mean, if you're looking to run the highest end games like Witcher 3, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, like I said, Battlefield 1, it's gonna run those games really well. Just about every game that's somewhat decently optimized on PC is gonna run really well on the RX 480. Sure, there may be limitations here or there, that's always the case, but if you're looking for a very solid 1080p gaming experience without breaking the bank, it doesn't get much better than the RX 480. And the fact that it is a 4GB video card is very nice when you look at something like the GTX 1063 GB, which is roughly around the same price, a little bit more expensive. I just think the 484GB is the better option. However, I should add that if you're dead set on doing 1440p gaming, I would recommend to pick up an RX 480 8GB model. Those models are actually coming in somewhat cheap now. You can pick them up for like $220 to $230. So if you're looking to do that, maybe that will be the better option for you, but again, that's something for you guys to decide. Moving on to the power supply, I went with the Seasonic S12 520 watt 80 plus bronze certified PSU. This power supply is was $50. It's a solid PSU from Seasonic, and with 520 watts, that's going to be perfectly fine for the build. Like I said, you can't even go for a Crossfire SLI configuration. And the RX 480, just like a lot of GPUs these days, is very power efficient given the performance you're going to get. You can get away with something like a 450 watt power supply, to be completely honest, but you might as well pay the $50 and get a quality PSU like the Seasonic 520 watt. Finally, for the case, I went a little cheap on this. The Rosewill Challenger mid-tower case is available for $40, and I think that's an excellent price for that case. This was actually one of the most popular cases on the market a few years ago. I remember I would always recommend it. Around that time, it was $50 to $60. Now at $40, I think it's a very solid budget mid-tower case. Aesthetically, it's not anything to write home about, but with a case like this, it's gonna get the job done, and that's really what you want in a budget build. If you want to spend a little bit more money and get a nicer case, the Cooler Master Half 912 is very good. That's the case that I have. The NZXT S340 is very good. That's a little bit more expensive, around $60 to $65. But that's one of the most highly regarded cases on the market that isn't too expensive. However, if you just want to be a cheapo, the Rosewill Challenger is a very nice case for the money. Moving on to the accessories, first for the monitor, I went with the Asus VS228H-P 21.5-inch 1080p monitor. This is $100 flat. 21.5 inches might turn some people off. If you're really adamant of getting the 23-inch, go ahead. That's about $15 to $20 more. I have a 21.5-inch 1080p monitor. I've gamed on it, and honestly, I've had a perfectly fine experience on it, and I really liked it. And for just $100 to get a 1080p monitor, you really can't go wrong with that. As far as specifics go, you've got a 5 millisecond response time, you've got a VGI port, a DVI port, as well as an HDMI port. So yeah, this monitor is just a very solid option for those of you on a budget, just $100. And usually you're not going to find a 1080p monitor much cheaper than $100, especially now when you're not in the holidays and there's not any crazy deals going on. For the keyboard and mouse, honestly, I wouldn't go too overboard, especially if you're on a budget. In all honesty, I would hop over on Amazon and pick up one of the generic gaming keyboard and mouse combos for like $35. Yes, that option is not as good as, say, having a Corsair K70 and a Myonix caster, or getting a Black Widow and a Razer Naga, whatever the case may be, but that's also going to save your bank account quite a bit. I would say pick up one of these generic keyboard and mouse combos off Amazon for like $30, and then in the future, if you really start getting into certain games where it's going to be helpful for you to have a nice keyboard and mouse, then make the jump. Otherwise, I do think it's somewhat overrated to drop, $170 or whatever to get a nice keyboard and mouse combo. If you're on a budget, I would recommend to start off cheap and then in the future look into some more expensive accessories. I just don't think that's something you want to do right off the bat. Finally, for the operating system, I would head over to Kingwin and pick up a copy of Windows 10 for like $25. Again, that is very cheapo. If you do want to drop the $80 and pick up a copy of Windows 10 from like Amazon, I guess you can do that, but I don't think it's worth it. I've suggested to several of my friends to pick up Windows 10 from Kingwin, and they've had no issues at all. One of my extra PCs actually bought the Windows 10 key off Kingwin, had no problems, and I've never really heard of anyone having problems like that. You can also hop over on Reddit and go on r/Microsoft Software Swap, I believe it is, and a lot of guys are selling keys on there on the cheap. I think for most people, they don't want to drop, $80 to $100 on Windows 10, and I really can't blame you. Go over there and pick one up for like $25 to $30. So that's gonna wrap this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. This build is a great option for those of you that are on a budget, but you still want to get a great 1080p gaming experience. Like, a 1080p gaming experience, an amazing one, is very accessible now. And the thing is, it seems like 1080p for most people is still the standard. It's not like a lot of people are looking to game at 1440p or 4K. 1080p still seems to be like the standard that people want to go towards, and that's really been the case for a really long time. I feel like this has been the longest that a resolution has been like the overall standard. Like, how long have people been looking to game at 1080p? As long as I've been PC gaming, I know that much. And yeah, it's just great to see how accessible it is on all budgets. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have a request for a future video, you can leave that in the comments section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.